that as well. So anyway, my question to you is, I'm in my enlightened state, if you will, of good feelings. And in the house, my dad is nowhere near that. So how do I go about keeping myself in that? It's a little difficult because he has the TV on in the den showing CNN constantly. Even though he's not watching the TV, it's on. And I say, are you watching it? And he's like, no, I'm not watching it, but yet it's on. And I pass by going through the kitchen and I hear those bits of doom and gloom that's on the news all the time, and it catches me. And so of course I can't stay in my bedroom, locked up in my bedroom or the computer room. I want to be able to enjoy the house and to love him as well. It's a little frustrating.
Well, every particle of the universe is a bit like that. In other words, in every particle of the universe, there is wanted and unwanted.
Yes.
And we know, we sort of started there today, we know that it would be easier for you if you could make the whole place your sanctuary, where only things you want are. But we also know that when you understand that the fastest, let's say that, so you go to your sanctuary, and let's say you manage to, emotionally speaking, get into the vortex. And then you come out and you hear some CNN, or you find some behavior in your father that makes you feel disapproval, and so your vortex spits you out.
Right.
We know that it feels like it would be easier if everything around you could be more like your sanctuary, but that's that conditional love that we were talking about earlier. And we want to say something in a very strong way. You'll hear it clearly. And as you remember this, it will make it easier for you as your environment begins to morph and evolve and become more like you want it to be. When you make peace with what is, big wads of resistance just disappear. And the releasing of resistance is what makes it possible for you to get into your vortex. So we want to put some questions to you. Do you understand that this vortex that we're talking about is your state of emotional being? In other words, it's your vibrational state that is reflected to you through the emotions. So if you agree with that, and you do,
Right.
does it then follow that I don't really care what the conditions are around me as long as I'm able to maintain my good feeling emotional state? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Because the opposite, the needing to control just one person, is so impossible that it renders you powerless. But if you can just make peace with not needing to control that one person, and you can acknowledge, I have the ability to unconditionally love. I have the ability to make peace with this. So then you set out to make peace with it rather than push against it. And as you make peace with it, sometimes people worry. If I make peace with something I don't want, will the universe say, oh, he's all right, never mind? People sort of kind of think that. But that's not the way that it works. You've already put your requests into your vortex of creation, into your vibrational reality. And so the less resistance you offer for any reason, then the more you're going to move emotionally speaking there. And here's something that we're not sure that you heard us say, so we want to say it in a way that you can really hear it. It's not possible for you to hang around in that emotionally better feeling vibrational state that we're calling your vortex of creation or your vibrational reality. It's not possible for you to hang around there emotionally and mentally and vibrationally without the conditions of your life shifting to match it, and pretty darn quick. In other words, this is not a conversation about, oh, just deal with it, buck up. This is not a conversation about, well, just put up with it, he lives there too. This isn't a conversation about just accepting it. This is not a conversation about compromise. We're asking for no compromise. We're asking you to align with who you are, align with who you are, align with who you are, which means you're going to have to focus. And we say, bless that rascally father of yours who does not feather your nest.
Yes, I do.
Because he prepares you, and that's the wrong word, but it'll do, for a world that is sure not going to feather your nest. In other words, if you keep trying, oh, you all need to be different. You keep passing laws until in time there will be no money left at all. In other words, controlling the uncontrollable is expensive. Have you noticed? It's really, really, really expensive.
Yeah.
So when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable and you do the only thing you can do, which is control the way you feel by perceiving deliberately, by focusing deliberately, you begin to discover all kinds of things in your environment. There's far more advantage to your environment than disadvantage at all times.
Yes.
But when you focus upon the parts, and you're not making it up, we know he could be more considerate, and it could be a better feeling place, but that will get you nowhere. Because as soon as you walk outside that door, now there's a great big world, and it's hard to find your sanctuary out there in that great big world. Your sanctuary, thank you for the word, is your vortex of creation. Your sanctuary is your vibrational state of being. And to gain access to your sanctuary, you got to train yourself vibrationally there, train yourself vibrationally there. So what happens, you get tuned in, you get feeling really good. And here's another really important part of this. Now, we're going to be very precise in the way that we give this to you. In fact, we might hold it back altogether. But what we mean by precise in the way we give this to you is once you are able to make peace with what is and find your vibrational sanctuary often, your Father's behavior will begin to evolve to more pleasing behavior. The reason that we want to speak that carefully is because if you go to the vortex in order to achieve a change in reality, it backfires on you because now you're looking at reality. Now you're looking at reality. You're checking out how well reality's doing. And then you're out of the vortex, out of the vortex, out of the vortex. In other words, why do you go to the sanctuary? Why did you even call it a sanctuary? It's a place where I can feel good.
Better.
It's a place where I can feel better. It's a place where I can tune into who I really am. And we want that. We want you to know that sanctuary goes with you in every moment of every day. You've got the option of focusing on and adding attention to reality or vibrational reality. And if you, wonderful word, if you think of this vibrational reality as your sanctuary, so think about it. So you get up in the morning, what's the first thing? What's the first thing that your Father does that you have felt complaint about?
He looks at the obits in the paper and he starts talking about death, telling me so-and-so died
right,
or this and
all
that.
right.
And I'm like, no, they didn't. In my mind, I know they didn't.
Well, but whether they didn't, so he reads the obituaries. So now this is a moment in time where you have reality, Father's reading the obituaries, or vibrational reality. So now just think about it. Father's reading the paper where he is pronouncing and emphasizing and exaggerating physical death. So I've got the choice of reality or vibrational reality. Vibrational reality, what do I know about death? We're all passing through, but we're eternal beings. We're much more than we know. Many times when people reemerge into non-physical, they become all that they are. There's huge relief in what's called the death process. Nothing ever goes wrong with this subject. In other words, you just start hammering at what you know about the subject of death, not out loud and not opposing your Father, but you take a in the vortex, you take a sanctuary thought rather than pushing against the other. What else? What's another thing?
Turns on the TV and says, I want to see what's going on in the world.
All right, so he turns on the television. He wants to know what's going on in the world. He's playing it loud. You're listening to it. So now you have another choice, reality or vibrational reality. And you say, I think I'll go to my sanctuary. Now, going to your sanctuary means, in normal terms, going to your bedroom, putting your headphones on, putting yourself in a sort of cave, protecting yourself from some unwanted things. But that's the opposite of who you really are and what you really are want. In other words, your inner being does not want you to shield yourself from unwanted things. Your inner being wants you to take the bounds. Your inner being wants you to choose the sanctuary vibrational reality version rather than the reality version. So So he's watching the television, he's poisoning his own mind, he's poisoning my mind, he's watching things that are uncontrollable, he's stirring up in me negative things, he's keeping me out of the vortex, he's keeping me from feeling good. I feel out of control, I want to feel good, it's important that I feel good. How can I feel good under these conditions? We're getting carried away, but we're getting it from you. So,
I get hit with it all the time, and I try to bounce back, like you say.
But what we're getting at is, if you let his behavior train your thought, then no wonder you feel resentful about it. But what we're getting at is, you can't ask somebody else to improve their behavior to train your thought better. They're not going to do it. That's trying to control the uncontrollable.
Correct.
So we're putting it to you in a way, and thank you for the wonderful word that you've offered us of sanctuary. I'm going to go to my sanctuary, to my vibrational reality, to my vortex of creation. So I'm going to choose these thoughts. We live in a technologically advanced world. Things from all over the world come to us. This is a concentrated version that's coming there. There is so much more well-being around this planet than is being shown. The television, particularly this station, is not oriented toward looking for the wonderful things in life, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. It's certainly all right for my father to want to reach out into the world. He's wanting a broader life maybe than he has. There isn't anything wrong with him doing whatever he wants to do. I don't have to do it just because he's doing it, just because it's within earshot. I can do some other things that make it less noticeable to me. I can take an emotional journey that feels better. I sure do appreciate my father and the benefit of us living together. It's a financial advantage to both of us. I am appreciating this environment in which we share. I want my father to feel good, and it's not my job to choose what he watches on television. And there are probably things that I want to do, even music that I want to hear, that he's not interested in.
Yes.
And it's a big world, and it's a big place, and I have the ability to focus myself into feeling good. And there may be things I'm interested in the world too. And some of that, I know what I don't want, helps me take a better bounce. Maybe I can use some of this information to my advantage to help me to dream a better feeling world. But the most important thing I'm discovering, we're speaking your words, is that I can go to my sanctuary regardless of what's going on around me. I have the ability to do it. And as I train myself into alignment with who I am when I really am in a physical setting that feels better, then I'll be in a better place to be able to do it anytime. This inspires me to get out and take a walk more often. This inspires me to get out into the beautiful environment around me. This inspires me to focus myself in all of the many ways that I can. I have the ability to focus myself into alignment. I've been giving my father way too much credit for way too much power about the way I feel. And in doing so, I've been separating myself from me. I've been using this as my excuse to claim not having power, when all along I have the power to focus anyway. Sort of like we said, we were talking about the woman who said, my lover left and now I'm sad. You say, my father watches CNN and it makes me uncomfortable. And we say, no, it doesn't. Say, no, Abraham, he does. He watches CNN and it makes me uncomfortable. We say, no, it doesn't. Your discomfort is not because he's watching CNN. Your discomfort is because you're using him watching CNN as your excuse to not go to your sanctuary, which you have the ability to do even when he's watching CNN.
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of times I will go, daily I go to the Y and go swimming to feel better for myself for a condition.
But you see, you started to say something. I go to the Y to get away from it. And
Yes.
and what we want you to understand is that's that pushing against unwanted. When you go to the Y for the flexibility of your body, when you go to the Y for the feeling of the water, when you go to the Y for the opportunity to interact with others, when you go to the Y because it's out there in the world and there are so many advantages to being there. In other words, you're wanting to choose the sanctuary, not go there out of what's the word? Can't even find the word. Can't even find the word. Well, escape is the word, but in other words, you're going because you're going. You're going, you know why you're going? You're going because your inner being went. And if you don't go where your inner being is, you're not going to feel good. And don't blame your father on you not going where your inner being is.